This video is simply just a collection of all of the Soulsborne videos I did, more specifically the reviews of each game. I decided I'd put them all into one video, though it is not by order of when the videos came out, but rather the actual order of the video games release. So the audio might switch from video to video, and the overall quality might switch from video to video. Just want to be giving that warning out there. But now I'll let you guys actually get to the video. What's up, everyone? Today we'll be going back in time to a year before Souls-like was even a term, before anyone knew about Hidetaka Miyazaki. Back to the year of 2009, the year that it all began. The year Demon Souls was released. That's right. For the next installment in my shitty series of talking about the Souls games, I'm talking about everyone's favorite, Demon Souls. Demon Souls is definitely the game I've played the least amount out of all of the games. I've only played it one time, and it's the only one I've never 100%ed. So, technically, I haven't 100% all the games.
You're a phony! Hey, this guy's a great big phony!
But that's besides the point. It only makes sense that I talk about the game that started what would become my favorite video game series. I do want to preface that I'm not going to be really all that critical of Demon Souls, and I'm not really going to go into depth with things that I think are flaws of the game like I've tried to do in the other ones. Because, dude, it was the first fucking Souls game. It was the first one. It was back in 2009, man. This shit hadn't been done yet. Like, no shit, it's gonna have some flaws. Like, yeah, no shit, the rest of the games are better than Demon Souls. Not really paving new grounds with that statement right there. So, it just feels really redundant to really go into depth about its flaws. I just kind of want to talk about the game and my experience with Demon Souls. And honestly, Demon Souls was a lot different than I thought it was going to be when being compared to the other games. I thought that it would be pretty similar to Dark Souls, when in reality, I really wouldn't say it was. Sure, it's on a fundamental level pretty similar, but there's a lot that I would say is pretty different. And I was going in blind for my first playthrough. I had never watched anything. And just to clarify, I played the original one, not the remake. My ass was not about to spend $70 on a fucking Demon Souls remake. You catch my ass dead before I would do that. Holy shit. I can definitely say it was certainly an unforgiving game, and it's absolutely the hardest part of the game. There are no bonfires or anything in Demon Souls. When you go into the world, you just have to fucking lock in, or you are fucked. And yeah, to be honest, that did scare me a bit. I thought I would get stuck in a lot of areas because of this, but to be honest, no, not really. It wasn't that bad. There were only like 2 or 3 worlds that I got stuck in for a bit of time, and which ones they were is a mystery to me. I don't fucking remember. But once I got to the boss, I was pretty much all good. None of the bosses were really hard for me, I would say, which again, I didn't expect any of these bosses to be hard. Again, it's the first time they did this. I didn't expect anything all that difficult. Flame Lurker might have been really the only boss that actually took me a few attempts. And maybe Penetrator too. I don't remember though. It's been a while since I've played the game. But I never really got stuck on a boss in Demon Souls. Which is why I feel like there are 2 routes that people could end up going down when they play Demon Souls, if they're coming from like Elden Ring, for example. Either A, the game will be really easy because, believe it or not, Demon Souls bosses are much easier than Elden Ring. Or they'll end up on route B and find the game difficult because it is so much more unforgiving than Elden Ring. If you die, then fucking womp womp, man. Get your ass back to the beginning. You gotta do all that shit again. And if you die, then there goes your max HP. fucking sucks to be you, I guess. And I do know that there have been people that struggled on Demon Souls because it's so much more unforgiving. But personally, I feel like I went more down path A, and just want to say there's nothing wrong if you get stuck down path B. If you struggle on Demon Souls, that's perfectly fine. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just want to point that out. I'm not saying that if you struggle on Demon Souls, then you just, clearly are not an elite skilled gamer. I'm just simply better. But there was one area. One little tiny area that had my ass fucking tweaking. I was about to fucking drop kick my controller because of this fuck ass area. The Swamp of Sorrow. This area, this fucking hellish place, this piece of fucking shit swamp is hands down, no questions asked, the worst swamp of any of the games. None of the others even come anywhere close to this fucking area. It makes Blight Town look like a child's fucking ball pit. This fucking place sucks. Words cannot, and I mean cannot at all describe how fucking horrible this area was. Nothing. There is nothing. There is nothing good to say about this fucking swamp. I hate it. The fuck ton of enemies, the mud that you have to walk in that makes you walk about as fast as a fucking dead chipmunk. The fuck ass poison, so that's great too. You walk at a fucking grandma's pace and you're dying the entire time and there's enemies coming after you. You can't roll through anything, so you just have to hope to God they don't get to you. And the area is pretty large and kind of is hard to navigate. So you end up getting stuck in there for fucking hours. It's horrible. The government could use this as a fucking torture device, and I'm telling you right now, anyone would fucking talk. Anyone. I'd tell you all my secrets. If you told me right now that I had to go through the Swamp of Sorrows again, I'd tell you everything. I could not handle that shit again. I could not. It's fucking horrible. It's literally everything that no one wants in a video game, all just combined into one evil amalgamation of fucking horrible shit. It really lives up to the name, Swamp of Sorrow. So fuck you, Swamp of Sorrow. I will never forget what you did to me. Never. Demon Souls was a very quick game for me. And I just think, in general, it's a pretty quick game, which makes sense. Again, for like the 30th time, it was their first game like this. Or it wasn't FromSoft's first game, but it was their first Souls game. I think it was probably about 15 to 20-ish hours for me to beat the game, I think. Which might seem like a lot for some people, but basically every other Souls game took me around 40 to 50 hours to finish my first playthrough. So this was very quick for me, which isn't a bad thing. I expected the game to be pretty quick. I expected to get it all done in a week, and that's exactly what I did. And I can strongly say that I had a good time. It wasn't anything spectacular or life-changing, it was just good. And that's what I expected. An alright game that I would quickly go through and play, have a solid time playing, and yeah, that's exactly what happened. It actually was pretty interesting, though, playing the first game. The one that literally kicked it all off. And seeing how far they've come and grown through their games from Demon Souls to Elden Ring. To be honest, I thought I was going to be really annoyed with the slower, more clunky movement in Demon Souls since it was old, but to be honest, it didn't bother me at all. And I think that was because I just expected it to be that way. Unlike Dark Souls 2, where I expected the movement and everything to be better than Dark Souls, yet somehow it fucking annoyed me more. I don't know how they pulled that shit off. I was coming into the game expecting it to be janky, so it didn't bother me all that much. Now, if you've watched literally any of my other Souls videos, you know that I recommend every single one of them at the end of the video. I always recommend that you play them. But this might be the only Souls game that I don't strongly recommend. Not because it's bad, but because I really don't think you're going to miss out on much. I feel like you would be perfectly fine never playing Demon Souls. Whereas with the other games, I feel like you're missing out on a lot if you don't play them. But not to say I don't recommend Demon Souls. I still do. I think people should play it just to see where it started, and I think it's always kind of fun to go back and play the first one. But I'm not recommending it as strongly. It isn't something that I'm really trying to get people to play. Like, I really want people to play Dark Souls or Bloodborne or Elden Ring or Sekiro. But I'm not on my fucking hands and knees begging them to please play Demon Souls. God, please, you have to play Demon Souls. I just don't see the point. Because, again, I just don't think you're missing out on that much. So if you don't ever play Demon Souls, don't sweat it. You're going to be perfectly fine if you never do play it. This is a bit of a shorter and less in-depth than the rest of the Souls videos, but I just don't have a lot to say about Demon Souls, to be honest. It's an alright game. I could probably go into more detail, but I feel like it would lead to me regurgitating the same thing over and over again. So I'm not going to continue talking about it. I think I've really gotten my point across about Demon Souls. It's a good game. It's not bad. Especially for their first one, it isn't that bad. But yeah, I just don't have a lot to say about Demon Souls. So I think that's where I'm going to wrap the video up. On December 28th, 2023, I would purchase Dark Souls 1 on Steam. I had only played some of Elden Ring before this point, and had heard the word Souls game probably a handful of times at most up to that point. The only reason that I even bought this game was that I had been watching some YouTubers that were going through and playing all the Souls games, so I thought, well, why the hell not? I'll go and try it as well. What I didn't realize, though, is that this game would completely change how I look at video games in general, and have a massive impact on my life and the games I played. This game changed everything for me. On the first day that I played Dark Souls, I created my handsome character, got through Undead Asylum pretty easily, and then ended up at Firelink Shrine. I would love to say that I was in complete awe and fell in love with Firelink Shrine, and got completely captivated by the game and just couldn't put it down at all. I was just madly in love with it. But I would be lying to you. I ran around Firelink Shrine, talked to the NPCs there, went to the graveyard as many people do, got my ass kicked, went back and tried to go into the cave that led to the catacombs, and almost immediately died again. I ran around a bit more, went to the very beginning of Undead Burg, died, and got off. I got bored and I really thought, man, there goes $40, how awesome. And to be honest, there was a good chance that that was where that was going to end. In another universe, I never came back to the game, and man, I don't ever want to experience that universe. They probably drink piss and piss nails. Luckily, however, that's not what happened. Instead, I ended up watching a fuck ton of Dark Souls content, mostly channels that were also doing the first Dark Souls 1 playthrough. And that day, I found a lot of the Soulsborne YouTubers that I actually watch today, which is actually really cool to me. But the biggest thing from watching those videos is that it got me to pick it back up. I thought that maybe it isn't that bad, and I just need to give it a little bit more time, you know, let it cook. And so the next day, I got back on Dark Souls, and my God, my experience was so much different than the first day. Instead of getting bored and getting off after an hour, I played and played and played some more and played a little bit more and then just a little bit more and then just a smidge more after that. Hours and hours went by before I took a break. I was completely hooked on Dark Souls 1. I want to say it was probably close to 5 or 6 hours straight I played, and the only reason I even took a break was because I had to eat dinner. And guess what I did after that? Well, I took a shower, of course, I didn't want to stink. And then guess what I did?
That's right, I played more Dark Souls. And just a little information for you guys here, I was on winter break during this time, so I had literally all day, every day, to play this game, and that is exactly what I wanted to do, and it's exactly what I did do. It was almost like it was destined to be. I remember going through the world, talking to all the NPCs, talking to my beautiful boy, Solaire of Astora, after getting through the hellish area of Undeadburg. And looking back on it now, Undeadburg isn't hard or anything, but on my first playthrough, it was pretty tough for me. I was still a terrible gamer at the time, and I wasn't good at it. I don't remember where I stopped on the second day of playing, but I do want to say it was around the bell gargoyles. I'd gotten stuck on them, and to be honest, the damn run back was basically as hard as the boss for me. Again, not because the boss was actually hard, I was just really shit at the game. And to be honest, I rage quit. I just got mad and stopped for the rest of the day. Now, this would also be the first time that I would experience this strange phenomenon that I like to call the Dark Souls paradox. Even after getting mad and saying that I hate the fucking game, getting really pissed off and rage quitting, even when I would still be mad, a part of me would just want to come back to it. Even just like 10 minutes after getting off because I was so mad, I wanted to come back. And now I know that this is probably something that is actually pretty common with people. I'm pretty sure I've seen it around before, this same kind of paradox, weird shit. But it was the first time that it happened to me, and it was really weird. I had never felt that before. I had never gotten mad at a game and then immediately wanted to get back on it. It was very strange. But every time that did occur, I would listen to the part of me that wanted to go back and play it. Because I just couldn't stop. I was completely addicted to Dark Souls. Now, somewhat early into the game, I think it might have been right after Quelaag, but to be honest, I don't really remember. It's been forever since I played the game for the first time. I would find myself in the Darkroot Basin. And if you don't know, there's a Black Knight there. A Black Knight that is wielding the Black Knight halberd. I encountered this dastardly foe and vanquished him after a few tries. And when I killed him, he would drop the Black Knight halberd. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had no idea how absolutely insanely broken this damn weapon was. I just liked the weapon. I really liked halberds in general, and the weapon I was using before this was just the base normal halberd. I was like, fuck, this is a better halberd? Hell, I'll use it. And yeah, I really liked using it because the damage was insane. I would end up beating most of the game with this weapon, and I can't help but feel that I missed out in a way, because I sort of steamrolled through the rest of the game. Like, Ornstein and Smo. Fucking Ornstein and Smo took me 2 tries. 2 tries on my first playthrough. And I know for a goddamn fact that a big part of that was because of the Black Knight halberd. I just feel like I went through the game very quickly because I was so overpowered, and I just feel like I kind of missed out on some of the Dark Souls experience. And absolutely, if I could, I would go back and tell myself to just not use the weapon, because I think I would have overall had a more enjoyable time. And I'm not saying that using overpowered weapons is wrong. If you want to, that's perfectly fine. I don't really care. I just kind of wish I did it on my first playthrough. But yes, as I said, I got through most of the game pretty quickly and would find myself at the final boss. However, I wouldn't be fighting Gwyn just yet, because I had a date with the DLC. And holy shit, the DLC was amazing. And mind you, I was coming off of Lost Izalith, which I'll be talking about later in this damn video. So this was a huge breath of fresh air. It was seriously peak. It is such a good DLC. Oh my god, it's so good. Artorias is easily one of my favorite bosses of all time. He's my favorite Dark Souls boss, and definitely up there is one of my favorite Soulsborne bosses. The DLC was also the first time in a long time when playing Dark Souls that I had actually really gotten stuck. It took me hours to beat Artorias, hours to beat Manus, and hours to beat Calamite. But man, once I did beat him, the rush of finally beating them was amazing. It was seriously like nothing else. It was the first time that I had really gotten that rush from beating a boss, and I couldn't help but want more. After the DLC detour, I was finally ready to fight Gwyn, and to be honest, I was a smidge disappointed, which I'll also talk about later. I just can't help but feel like it should have been better for the final boss. I mean, the music is definitely great, incredibly memorable. Once I did finish the game though, I was really stunned at just how much I enjoyed this game. From the first day I played it and being completely bored to then the second day and just completely getting entranced by Dark Souls, I couldn't put it down. It was so fun. It really was an amazing experience that I recommend everyone try at least once. Even if you're not a big Soulsborne person, give it a try. I wasn't at all. And then I played Dark Souls 1 and here I am now. But now there was an itch that I had to scratch. An itch that would lead me to Dark Souls 2. But that's for a whole nother video. I would eventually 100% the game, and while it was very, very annoying at times, I did have fun doing so. Now that I have explained my love for the game, it might seem a bit strange what I'm going to be saying later in this video. Don't worry though, the glazing isn't over, not even close, but the hate I have for this game, or at least some of this game, is going to be here. And with that, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video. There's something about the first half of Dark Souls that will forever have a place in my heart. From Undead Asylum to Anor Londo, Dark Souls is one of my favorite gaming experiences ever. Like, probably not my number one, but definitely my number two. Number one will always be reserved for Red Dead 2, but again, different video. Which is kind of crazy to me that I would rank it all the way up as my number two gaming experience. Maybe? I'd have to think, but it might be. It's definitely up there and is at least in the top 5. And what baffles me of that is that I find basically all the Souls games to be better than the first half of Dark Souls. Bloodborne, Sekiro, Dark Souls 3, Elden Ring, all of them I think are better than the first half of Dark Souls 1. But even still, I can confidently say that the first part of Dark Souls 1 is one of my favorite gaming experiences, even though I would probably still rather play Elden Ring or Sekiro, but still, when I think about it, I gravitate towards the first half of Dark Souls 1 when I talk about my favorite Soulsborne experiences. I do have some reasons towards why this might be. One is the world. I mean, the world in Dark Souls 1 is seriously amazing. I have very little to say that's bad about it, at least in the first half. Because in the grand scheme of things, the Dark Souls map isn't that big, but they make it feel so huge. Just right under the Firelink Shrine are the Catacombs, Tomb of the Giants, and New Londo Ruins. And right above it is Undeadburg and maybe other stuff. Undeadburg is the only one that came to my mind now. And that's just what is above and below Firelink Shrine. There's still so much else that kind of expands past and around it. And there are so many areas that feel so far away, but really aren't that far. And that's because of the downright beautiful way that Dark Souls is connected. All of the amazingly thought out shortcuts that shorten runbacks by a crazy amount. And it just made me think like, wow, this is like really, really cool. Especially like the elevator from Undeadburg to Firelink Shrine seriously blew my mind out of my head. I had thought I had went so far, trudged through the hell just to go down a pretty quick elevator and then right back up at Firelink Shrine. I thought I was so far away, and yet I'm literally right there. I'm right above it. It was pretty cool to see, and in many ways, everything is just right next to each other. Nothing's really that far away. The world alone, just itself, is a huge reason why I love this game. Another example is when I found out that Blighttown was connected to Firelink Shrine. I almost shit my pants with happiness. I was so relieved to see such a peaceful place after literally going through actual goddamn hell. Well, I guess not actual hell. That's reserved for somewhere else. I seriously did not think that it could get any worse than Blighttown. There's no way it could at all, right?
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
And then finding out that New Londo Ruins was literally right beneath all that. I had no idea until the very end of the game. I'd had no idea for like 50 hours that there was an entire area all the way underneath Firelink Shrine that I was just missing. It was crazy. The game just continued to blow me away and impress me over and over the entire time. I didn't know how it could get better, and it continued to. And then the climax, when you get lifted up by those ugly ass bird things, I don't know what they are, over into Anor Londo. Cutscene is seriously probably my favorite like Souls series cutscene, which I know there aren't a lot of them anyway, but just in general is one of my favorite scenes of anything in any of the Souls games. It's amazing. Anor Londo is stunning. It is a beautiful, amazing looking area that's a crazy contrast between the rest of the game before that. And then what blew my mind even more was them hiding the painted world just behind a painting, just a big painting in the big like church area. Nothing that really tells you it's there. I had no idea it was there. I was just lucky enough that I had the doll with me, and I discovered it, and I felt so awesome finding this area because it didn't tell me anything about it. I just stumbled across it. It's that kind of discovery that just I love from these games, and it was one of the first times that I really felt that kind of feeling of discovery with that in this game. And of course, I can't talk about Anor Londo without talking about my favorite base game boss, Ornstein and Smough. I love this boss. Literally, I don't have really much to say like bad about them. I just love this boss. It's a really cool arena, and I just really like the bosses. They're fun to fight, and I hate duo fights. Like, I really fucking hate them. FromSoft does not do them well a lot. But when FromSoft does get the duo fights right, mwah, chef's kiss. So good. If you couldn't guess by this point, I love this game, especially and mostly the first half of the game. But now that I've talked about the first half of the game, it's time to talk about the latter half. It's time to descend to hell. So, the second half of this game has quite the reputation among people, and not a good one. Not at all. The fall off between the first and second half of this game seriously needs to be studied. It's honestly impressive. Now, I am completely aware that it wasn't really FromSoft's fault that it ended up being like this. They were heavily rushed to finish the game. I don't know the details, I don't know, I just know they were super duper rushed to finish the game, and they weren't able to create the every area how they wanted to. But like, man, were they really that rushed? I mean, seriously, FromSoft, were you that rushed that Lost Izalith had to look like this? That the Tomb of Giants had to look like that? I feel that areas like the Tomb of Giants and Lost Izalith could have been some of the better areas in the game if they had the time to have been fleshed out. I really do believe that, but we're never going to be able to find that out, which is a bummer, but enough dwelling on what could have been. It's time to get really fucking furious with this game. When I got myself the Lord Vessel from Guinevere and was entering the second half of the game, I was so excited. I thought to myself, if this is only halfway, then there's so much more amazing content left. And yet, how innocent and naive I was. For my past self was about to find out that the second half of the game was in fact not amazing, but kind of fucking shit. Now, I'm aware that there are more areas in the second half of the game than just Tomb of Giants and Lost Izalith, but they're the ones I'm going to touch on in this video because they're the ones I feel are affected the most by this second half curse. So I'm going to start with the Tomb of Giants. I want to save the worst shit for last. The Tomb of Giants is incredibly bad. It's poorly put together and has very little of anything in it, besides one of the embers you need to upgrade your weapons, which, mind you, is in a pitch dark room with like 8 of these giant skeleton dudes. Seriously, what the actual fuck did FromSoft want us to do here? There's like no chance of surviving in this room. Are you just supposed to run in there, grab it, and die? And this leads me into the first real problem with the latter half, and that's the careless enemy placement and kind of just area design in general. And this is why I picked Lost Izalith and Tomb of Giants, mostly because of that room in Tomb of Giants, though there is another part of it that also is like that. Both of these areas give me a Dark Souls 2 vibe when it comes to how the enemies are laid out. And what I mean by that is they're kind of just carelessly placed around. I don't know, you can just feel when they're just randomly placed. They're just fucking everywhere, and it's like, what the hell is this shit? This is terrible. Why did you do this? Why? This is fucking terrible. I hate it. It's so annoying because it's just an easy, annoying way for them to make the area a little bit harder, because I just put 8 of these big ass fucking skeleton guys in a tiny little room that you can't see anything in. Which I am aware that there is a lantern that you can get, but I don't care. Not being able to see anything in the Tomb of Giants is a stupid gimmick. I don't like it. I just feel like it's a cheap way to bump up the difficulty of the area, because without the not being able to see anything, the Tomb of Giants is not a very hard area. There's some big skeleton guys and a random ass Black Knight in there for some reason, but that's really it. There's nothing really going on in the Tomb of Giants, again, except for that ember. I genuinely do not think there's like anything of real importance down there. Maybe like a spell or something, I don't fucking know. But really there isn't. It just is there and is really poorly put together, and yeah. It's not good. You can just see how rushed it is compared to the much more detail-oriented areas of the first half. Now, if you do get past the first area of Tomb of Giants, then you'll end up in the last little area room thing before Nito's boss, where you have these weird worm things that shoot out of the ground, and you can kind of just run past them. They're completely useless. Nothing really crazy there. But then there's the area right before the fog gate, where they just put these infinitely respawning baby skeletons. Why did I say it like that? That was weird. And a shit ton of pinwheels. It just feels sloppy. When you maybe have a pinwheel or two before the fog gate, it really isn't that big of a deal. I mean, still just kind of reusing a random boss there, but it isn't a big deal. But when there's just a bunch of them randomly placed around, it really feels incredibly sloppy, and it is already a bit sloppy because they're just fucking reusing damn pinwheel. And yeah, if I could pick one word to sum up the Tomb of Giants, it would just be sloppy. I used sloppy a lot in that sentence. That was weird. But now, if you made it that far, you get to fight Gravelord Nito. And I'm pretty sure Miyazaki himself even said that this is his least favorite boss in the game, but don't quote me, I just think I read that somewhere. But yeah, I can get where he's coming from with that. This is a fucking terrible boss. And now personally it isn't my least favorite. That title is reserved for someone else. It is probably the second worst boss in the game. Like, what the actual fuck is this boss? There really isn't anything to this boss. None of his moves are all that difficult, at least in my opinion. And if you find this boss hard, then that's perfectly fine. Or if you do enjoy this boss, then that's also perfectly fine as well. I'm not hating on anyone that enjoys it or finds it difficult. This is just how I feel about the boss. So no hate here from me. The only real part of this boss that is hard is avoiding the stupid skeletons in the goddamn boss arena. And everyone knows that there are big skeletons in the back, so no one goes back there. So they don't wake up and start fighting you. So then half of your boss gimmick is fucking gone because everyone knows how to just not trigger it. Fucking great boss design, FromSoft. You hit it out of the ballpark with this one. Perfect shit right there. This area is just one big disappointment for me. It was the first area I went to after the Lord Vessel, and I was really excited, and it ended up fucking sucking so hard. But I was still optimistic, and I thought, well, that area sucked, but surely it won't all be like that from here on out. Yeah, I was wrong. I was so goddamn wrong. See, I thought it would be an awesome idea to go to Lost Izalith next. Little did I know, this would be the worst thing I've ever done. See, if you thought the Tomb of Giants was bad, Lost Izalith makes the Tomb of Giants look like the best fucking area in the game. This shit is my least favorite area of any of the games, period. There is nothing good to say about this damn place. All the bosses are boring. Ceaseless Discharge, Centipede Demon, the bed of motherfucking chaos, all ass, 0 out of 10. I hate them. And I hate this area. Every single enemy here is just sporadically placed around. It's so ugly to look at. The fucking bright orange lava everywhere, especially in the damn dinosaur field where it's literally the goddamn floor, just sears my goddamn eyes every time I go into it. And then the stupid ring gimmick that you have to wear the orange charred ring, I think, so that you don't die from the lava. But it doesn't protect you from lava. No, it only, like, limits how much damage you take, I'm pretty sure. So while you're walking through this fucking field of dinosaurs or dragons, I don't really know. The bottom halves of them, I guess. Not the entire thing. Just the bottom halves of them. I think it's the dragons, which I don't know what the fuck is going on there. You just hear your character taking damage every fucking second as you're sludging through this goddamn lava with all these randomly placed dragon bottom halves. And there's like 100 of them just randomly placed. There is no sense to it, no meaning to it. It's all completely fucking just random placements, which you can say about literally every goddamn fucking thing in that area. And then you have to go through all that bullshit to get to the bed of chaos. Oh my god, this boss is terrible, and I think I'm gonna give myself a headache if I keep talking about this shit. I think you guys get the point that Lost Izalith fucking sucks ass. So let's talk about something a little less shit. The final boss. I touched on Gwyn in the earlier section, but I want to talk about him here because he is in the second half of the game, so of course I'm gonna talk about him. And yeah, it is truly a shame that the ending is rushed. Not as much as the other areas, but it does feel a bit rushed. I feel like it could have been more grand as a final boss. Because, to be honest, FromSoft has actually been pretty consistent at delivering solid final bosses in my opinion, but I do understand that this was only their second shot at it, and it's not bad for that. I just kind of wanted a bit more, and maybe that's just me being a greedy little guy. I mean, hell, it's better than whatever the fuck Dark Souls 2 final boss is. That shit's boring as hell. I don't want to get this frustrated with Dark Souls and scold it because I really do love the game, and they were so close to something even better. If they were able to keep up the consistency from the first half of the game and roll it over into the second half, then I truly feel that the game could have been so much better than it already is. But enough about my angry rant, it's time to wrap up this video. This is the part that confuses me about this game. I'm aware and very open about the not so great second half of the game, and I've admitted my distaste for the second half. But I don't care. Even though I really don't like the second half of the game, I still absolutely love the game, and it's one of my favorite of all time, which just doesn't make sense to me at all. If I'll enjoy one half of the game, and I really don't like the second half of the game, it just doesn't make sense to me that I would enjoy the game as much as I do. And one of those reasons, as I touched on earlier, is definitely the world design, because again, it will always have a place in my heart, and it is one of my favorite worlds of any video game. It does give an almost open world feel inside a small package because of its non-linear approach. And I feel like no other FromSoft game, besides Elden Ring, because that's literally an open world game, so of course it has a non-linear feel, has truly hit that type of non-linear feel. I feel that the games after Dark Souls 1 started to stray away from the super non-linear gameplay style that Dark Souls 1 had, which I feel is the wrong way to go, because none of the other games have that non-linear feel like Dark Souls does, and it really shows, and I really don't like it. I really like the gameplay style of Dark Souls 1 with that really, really non-linear approach of just go wherever the hell you want, go at the game however you please, just go at it, man, who the fuck cares? Whereas the other games are more straight-lined. Dark Souls 2 kind of has some branching paths, but like Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 and stuff are really just a straight line a lot. And because none of the other games had that non-linear feel like Dark Souls does, Dark Souls is able to scratch that non-linear itch that none of the other games can. The second reason is that this game changed my life. And I know it's a little crazy to say that a single game changed your life, but it really did. Because without Dark Souls, I would have never tried out the Souls series. I did play Elden Ring before Dark Souls, but Elden Ring didn't give me the same feeling, mostly because it was too hard for me at the time, because I sucked ass at playing games. Because of Dark Souls, I tried out Dark Souls 2, and then Bloodborne, then Dark Souls 3, then Sekiro, and then Elden Ring again. Because of Dark Souls, I'm here right now making this video. My view of video games right now all started because I played Dark Souls. Soulsborne games are my favorite series of all games ever because of Dark Souls. Hi everyone. I wanted to sit down and talk about Dark Souls 2 today. After making the Dark Souls 1 video, it only feels right to keep going and make a video about Dark Souls 2. Now, from the title of the video, you can probably guess that I don't feel as strongly about Dark Souls 2 as I do with Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 2 is, I would say, without a doubt, the most divided game in the series, and I think the game does a great job at holding that title. I want to talk about my feelings towards the game after my first playthrough, and also how my feelings towards the game changed after I went back and 100%ed the game. With Dark Souls 2, I feel like you are one of two people. You either hate this game, or you love it. Now, I don't hate this game, but I also don't love it, but I also don't think I'm in the middle. I lean a bit more towards not liking the game. However, I also don't think that Dark Souls 2 is the biggest piece of dog shit on the planet. There are parts to enjoy in this game, but there is also a lot of really, really bad shit in this game that I really don't like. And I feel that the reason it stands out in Dark Souls 2 is because it happens more often and is more severe in Dark Souls 2 compared to any of the other games. Like, sure, all the games have some annoying parts with annoying enemies that like to gank you, but DS2 turns that dial up to like 180. Like, one of the things I hate the most about this game is that every area feels like such a damn chore to get through because it is just filled to the brim with the most randomly placed enemies that are just there to make the area harder. But instead of making the area more difficult in a good and fun way, it just makes it really annoying and boring. And it feels like this in basically every area. So if your locations in your game don't feel fun and feel more like a chore to get through, you have to make up for it in other areas. But they just don't really do that, in my opinion. The bosses are the weakest in the series and are very boring. None of them ever felt really hard. And my god, if you die, I am so sorry because those fucking boss runbacks are terrible in this game. It's seriously like dropping bricks on your balls over and over again, especially in like Sir Alon's boss runback. Like, holy shit, that was just an actual form of torture. DS2 left a sour taste in my mouth after my first playthrough. I really didn't like it, especially after having an amazing experience in Dark Souls 1. I was very disappointed. I was just glad it was over, and after the first playthrough, my stance on the game was definitely all the way to the I hate this game side. When I was doing my rounds 100%ing the Souls games, DS2 eventually came around, and to be honest, I was dreading doing that 100% completion the entire time. But I still decided to go through it and get the 100% completion. But this second playthrough was much different than the first. I was actually enjoying myself quite a bit. Even in the worst parts of the game, I was actually having quite a bit of fun. I also realized how great the selection of weapons and armor are, and I strongly agree that DS2 has the best selection of weapons and armor out of the 3 Souls games. Power stancing is an awesome option. I power stance greatswords throughout like the entire game, and it was fucking awesome. It made my little dumb monkey brain very happy to just go bonking everything on the head with 2 giant greatswords. Bonfire aesthetics are an amazing item, and I hope they'll make a reappearance in a future FromSoft title because they are seriously very great and handy items. All 3 of the DLCs are absolutely the best part of the game, and they're definitely some of the stronger DLCs in the series. After I finished the Dark Souls 2 100% completion, I was converted over to the side of thinking the game was good. But that wouldn't last for very long, because I started thinking about it and realized that even though I had a lot more fun on my second playthrough, there was still so much that I really didn't enjoy. So much that was still pretty ass, in my opinion. And that's where I am now. I think the best way that I can put my feelings about Dark Souls 2 into words is that I don't think the areas or the bosses inherently suck and are that terrible. They're just so much weaker than the rest of the Souls series that I look at the game in a more negative light because there isn't much that the game excels at, so it can't really use anything to help hide the more negative parts of the game, which I feel Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3 are able to do much better. I really think the best way to play Dark Souls 2 is to not watch any content about it, which is like kind of fucking obvious for really any game, I guess. But what I mean is that by going into the game blind, you can form your own opinion about how you feel towards Dark Souls 2. When I was playing my first playthrough, I kind of let YouTube videos influence my opinion a bit, which is why I disliked the game so much, I think. But with my second playthrough, I came in with an empty mind, ready to reform my opinion about Dark Souls 2, and that is exactly what happened. I think Dark Souls 2 is just an alright game. I feel pretty good putting it just right in the middle. It's just okay. I'm glad it exists as a game. It had a lot of ideas, and a lot of them were pretty bad, but some were really, really fantastic. It did a lot of experimenting, and I respect that. I'm always going to recommend Dark Souls 2 to everyone because, hey, you might really enjoy it. It might be your favorite, and that's fantastic. This definitely isn't as lengthy as a video as the Dark Souls 1 video, but I kind of feel like it would have been the same song and dance before. I didn't like these things, I liked these things. So I just tried to shorten all my talking points up because I think you guys get the idea. It's got some good parts and some bad parts. What is up, my Gangosauruses? Today, I will finally be talking about Dark Souls 3. After my Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2 videos, which if you haven't seen, then I think you should probably go check those out. After this video, of course. Anyway, I've been wanting to talk about Dark Souls 3 for a while now, ever since I did the Dark Souls 1 video, because, well, it's the best Dark Souls game. I know, I was a crazy take right there. Now, I love Dark Souls 1, and I tolerate Dark Souls 2, but Dark Souls 3, that shit is what I'm talking about right there. I was so fucking excited when I finally started playing this game, because all I had heard was that this was such a good game. and some even put it as the best Souls game. And in this video, I want to deep dive into my thoughts about Dark Souls 3 and where I rank it among the other Souls games. Miyazaki and his entire team that worked on Dark Souls 3 did an absolute wonderful job of wrapping up the whole Dark Souls trilogy in the Dark Souls 3 story, especially since Miyazaki didn't even really want to make follow-ups to Dark Souls 1, but because of the success of Dark Souls 1, they wanted more, and it really felt like Miyazaki was tying up everything with Dark Souls 3, so that a follow-up to Dark Souls 3 would never even be considered, because I really don't think he wanted to do it. I mean, hell, the final boss of the game's final DLC literally takes place at like the end of the world, after it's just taken over by Ash. And we'll be talking about that fight a bit later. Now, speaking of the bosses, I can confidently say, without a shadow of a doubt, that Dark Souls 3 has the best bosses in the Dark Souls series. And it absolutely has some of the best in all of FromSoft's catalog of Souls games. Now, a lot of people say Dark Souls 3 has better bosses than Elden Ring, and to be honest, I'm really stuck in between which one I actually think has the better bosses. It's a hard thing for me to make a decision on, and I think I'll save my decision on which one is best for another video later down the line, when I actually have more time to actually think over the answer in my head. But I do want to touch on Dark Souls 3 bosses before I move on. I think Dark Souls 3 has the best intro boss in any of the games, Ludex Gundyr. He's definitely my favorite intro boss, and also just a really enjoyable boss. I think he does a fantastic job at showing new players what kind of challenge they're going to be getting into, and I think he does a good job at telling people that this game isn't going to be the same speed as Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. This shit's about to be fast. Or at least faster than Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. They already released a game that I think is faster than Dark Souls 3 just a year prior, which was Bloodborne, which will also be getting a video at some point. Dark Souls 3 also has my favorite final boss of the Dark Souls games, and my second favorite in the entire Soulsborne series, behind Ishin. That's my number one. Number two is Soul of Cinder. And now I know that plenty of people don't really care that much about the Soul of Cinder, or just don't like him at all, but I really enjoy the Soul of Cinder. One, I think he's just a fun fight in general, and I enjoy the way he switches between weapons and all that. Two, the actual lore behind him makes the boss even more fun to fight, because you're literally fighting yourself from Dark Souls 1, which I think is fucking cool in my opinion. And you're also, fighting all of the past Lords of Cinder, just all of them, into one mass that is the Soul of Cinder, and I think that's fucking awesome. Three, I love the music for the boss, and especially in the second phase, when it plays Gwyn's theme. I didn't know they were going to play that, and it was really fucking cool how they implemented it into the music. And four, I think it's the perfect way to end Dark Souls. Literally fighting and defeating all of the Lords of Cinder, and I think it's a much better ending than what the original ending could have possibly been, where you're going to fight Pontiff Sullivan as the final boss, or at least one of the final bosses. And if you didn't know, there was some cut content that suggested that he was going to be the final boss of the game, and I'm glad that they didn't end up doing that. While I do really like Pontiff Sullivan, he's a fun and tough boss, especially since I didn't know you could just parry the fuck out of him and make it easy. But I just wouldn't have really liked him as the final boss. I much prefer the Soul of Cinder as the final boss, and I'm glad they ended up going with that. Now, I'm going to quickly talk about a few more bosses before I get into my favorite one in the game. And the first boss I want to quickly touch on is the Nameless King. Coming into this fight, all I'd heard was that this motherfucker was tough. This was the hardest. He was so hard. Everyone struggles on him, and I was like, fuck, alright, shit. I'm about to get my ass kicked out here. And I ended up, on my first playthrough, beating him on my second try. And I'm pretty confident that I could have beaten him on my first try, but I had come in to the fight with only half my flasks, and I think that's why I ended up dying. But it just wasn't all that hard for me. Second playthrough, I beat him on my first try, third playthrough was, I think, on my third attempt, I believe. I just don't find the boss all that hard. I don't think he's really all that difficult to dodge his attacks and all that and stuff like that. I do think he's a good boss. I'm not saying that he's a bad boss, and I'm not saying that if you struggled on him that you're bad at the game, and I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal of like, oh yeah, everyone said this boss was hard, and I beat him real quick. It's just, I thought he was going to be harder. He wasn't that hard for me. If he was hard for you, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But I do still think he's a good boss. I just kind of wanted to touch on that since everyone had always said he was such a difficult boss. Next one is Midir, which was my favorite dragon fight in the entire Soulsborne series. Super fun fight, great music and arena. But then like Bale became a whole thing in the Elden Ring DLC and just easily stole that first place spot from Midir. Demon of Pain and Demon from Below is probably my favorite duo fight in the series, and the second phase is just as good. Such a fun and really cool looking fight. However though, this game is not all sunshine and rainbows and shit with all of its bosses. There are some pretty bad ones. Crystal Sage, Deacons of the Deep, and Aldrich are the first two that really come to my mind when I think of not great bosses that I really didn't like in Dark Souls 3. And maybe there were more, and I just don't remember. I can't think of them because I'm stupid. But these are the first three that I think of. Crystal Sage isn't that hard. It's just really annoying with all the duplicates and shit in a not very large arena. I don't like that boss. It's really annoying. Again, not hard, just annoying. Aldrich is also just annoying because they just keep moving around and shooting the stupid fucking arrows all the time. But again, not really hard, just boring. And yeah, I really don't like that fight. And then the Deacons, of course, are just boring. Like, what the actual hell? What the fuck are the Deacons of the Deep, dude? What kind of fucking boss fight is that? I don't even know what the fuck that is. Probably the worst fight in the game. I hate that fight. But now that I've gotten that all out of the way, it's time to finally talk about my favorite boss of Dark Souls 3.
What? Still here? Hand it over, that thing, your dark soul. For my lady's painting.
Slave Knight Gale. Now, not only is Gale my favorite boss in Dark Souls 3, but he's also my favorite boss in all of Soulsborne history, and it ain't even close. I love this fight. I love everything about it. I love the lore behind it and behind Gale as a character. I love the music. I love the arena. I love his moveset and the visuals. It is such a cool looking fight, especially in phase 3 with the lightning and his cape and shit that he can use in his attacks, which is so fucking cool. I love this fight. I have literally nothing bad to say about it. I am a fucking elite Slave Knight Gale glazer. This motherfucker is my favorite. This man is amazing. I love this fight. Holy shit. Best fight in all of the games, period. Full stop. And I will die on that hill forever. And I also just think that the Ring City in general is just a good DLC. I mean, it literally has Gale and Midir in it, so of course it's going to be good. And I'd probably say it's my number 3 Soulsborne DLC. However, the same cannot be said for the Ashes of Ariandel. I really don't like this DLC. It's probably my least favorite DLC in all the games. And I know I might get flayed alive for saying that, but I really just don't like this DLC. I find it pretty boring. It's a pretty interesting looking area, at least in some parts, but there just ain't a lot going on, especially in the boss department. You have the Grave Tender boss, which is very boring and I don't care for at all. And then there's Frida. I don't like Frida. And I know that that is quite the take. I know she's liked by a lot of players. But I just don't like her. I don't. And one problem is that it's just too long. I know it's kind of a weird complaint, but it's too long for me. I'm sorry, but 3 whole health bars is too much, man. That's too much. Because bosses like Gale prove that you don't need multiple health bars to be an exciting and fun fight. I think 1 health bar is all you need, and I mean 2 health bars is also fine, but 3 is too far for me. It's too much, and it just makes the fight fucking drag on, and it's not that good of a fight that I want 3 whole ass fucking health bars. I don't want that, because long boss fights don't mean good boss fights. Now, like Ishin, that's a good boss that does 3 health bars very well, but not Frida. I just don't think she does it very well. Now, I've only fought her twice, and maybe someday I'll come back to the fight here again, and maybe change my mind. But at least right now, don't enjoy that fight. And while Phase 3 does look really cool with the black flame shit and all that, I don't like it all that much anyway. It's so fucking hard to get a hit off her. It's so hard to hit her without also getting hit yourself. It's so fucking annoying. And I don't like it. I know I've said that like a billion times, that I really don't like that fight. And now if you like Frida, I think that's awesome. I think that's honestly the best part of Souls games, is everyone has their own opinion. And if you like Frida, awesome. And if you think my opinion is completely wrong, awesome. Tell me about it in the comments, how you think my opinion's wrong. You can do that. That's awesome. I would love to chat about that, about why you like Frida and why I don't. I think it's perfectly fine if you like Frida. And if you think all my opinions in this video so far have been wrong, that's fine too. Maybe you hate this game. That's cool. I mean, it doesn't really matter, because everyone has their own opinion. I never want to make a video or a statement about something like Frida being a bad boss and make it sound like everyone who likes Frida is wrong, right? Like, I'm not trying to say that my opinion is the correct opinion. That's just how I feel. And if you feel opposite, I think that's awesome. More power to you that you like Frida. I think that's great that you're able to enjoy Frida as a boss. But yeah, I would absolutely love to hear other people's opinions on the bosses that I've talked about, on the DLCs that I've talked about. Because to be honest, if everyone had the same opinion, then it would be really fucking boring. But also, please do not freak out when you hear that I say I don't like Frida. Anyway, I think that's enough about the DLCs. And I'm not going to really touch on the weapons or the armors like I did in the Dark Souls 2 video. At least I talked about them a bit more in that video. I feel like there ain't much to talk about with those. I think the weapons and armor are good in the game. They're pretty cool. The one main part of Dark Souls 3 that I actually think I really don't like that much is how linear the game is. It is absolutely the most linear out of the 3. It is definitely a very straight line type of game in most parts, which isn't exactly a horrible thing, but also isn't amazing, because I'm always going to prefer non-linear over linear. Because a place like High Wall of Lothric is literally the straightest of all straight lines in the history of straight lines. It is insane, and I don't really like that. But it's also not a complete deal breaker. I just would prefer a non-linear over a linear type of game. But that, I think, is really the only really big thing I don't like about Dark Souls 3. But I do want to give my final thoughts on Dark Souls 3 before wrapping up this video. DS3 was a huge relief for me, especially after playing Dark Souls 2. Mostly because I didn't want the rest of the series to be like Dark Souls 2, and I was afraid that it might have been. And luckily it wasn't. Not at all. It was fantastic. Dark Souls 3 is such a great game. And just like Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, I would recommend it to everyone. It is so much fun and has some of the best bosses. And I'm really glad that we got the Dark Souls trilogy. And it's easily my favorite video game trilogy of all time. So if you... What's poppin', everyone? Now that I've gotten the Dark Souls trilogy done and talked about, you can go check those out later if you would like to. I believe it's time to talk about FromSoft's other Souls games, and I wanted to start with Sony's Forgotten Child, Bloodborne. It's always stumped me to think about how Bloodborne came out in 2015, right in between Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3. Especially with how different Bloodborne feels compared to either of those games. I would say it's much faster, but definitely fucking faster than Dark Souls 2, and I would even say it's a faster paced game than Dark Souls 3. So I always kind of thought it came out after Dark Souls 3. Fuck no, I was wrong. It was 2015. It probably comes as no surprise when I say that I've played the shit out of Bloodborne, just like the rest of them. I have 100% of the game just like the rest of them. I really enjoyed my time with Bloodborne. And to be honest, I don't actually have too much bad to say about Bloodborne. I do, however, have plenty good to say. I do first want to preface that I don't think this game is as good as many people say.
What?
No, all right. I know that sounds bad.
I've heard plenty of people put this game in like their top 3 Souls games. Fuck. Even some as their number 1. And if you're one of the people that think that, then cool. I have no problem with people ranking Bloodborne as one of their favorites. That's awesome. I just hope that you guys don't have a problem with me placing Bloodborne a little lower than some might like. I first want to talk about the main game and save the DLC for later, which is like no shit. Of course, you're starting with the base game first, but I just thought I would clarify it. I love basically everything about Bloodborne. Straight up is about as simple as that. Almost every aspect of Bloodborne is my favorite in FromSoft's catalog. The world and the art design is fucking amazing. The gothic Lovecraftian world is just mwah, chef's kiss. It's fucking amazing. I love it. It's my favorite out of all of like the Souls series worlds. And yeah, sure, there's more to see and do in an open world like Elden Ring, but man, there is something about Bloodborne's world and how it's created and the art style and everything that just draws me into it each time. It's fucking top tier. Literally nothing bad to say about it. The weapons, I mean, is this literally even a fucking competition? Easily sweeps the fucking board. The best out of any of the games. I feel complete when I get to use trick weapons. They are such a fucking awesome concept, and I need to see them again in other games. Every weapon is just so fucking badass. And once again, nothing bad to say. Top of the top for the weapons. Music is phenomenal. Some of my favorite boss OSTs are in this game. Fantastic across the board. Not much to say about the music. It's really good. The lore is really interesting to me, and I know a lot of people don't care for the lore of the games. I am one of the people that really does. It's incredible. It's super interesting, and I can easily just watch hours upon hours worth of Bloodborne lore videos with literally no problem at all. The shit is so fun to learn about. I love that shit. Miyazaki and everyone who worked on this game just knocked it out of the fucking park with this game. But there is one part of the game that didn't quite please me the same way that the rest of the game did. I'm not a huge fan of many of the base game bosses. Now I know that many Bloodborne fans might want to fucking execute me for saying that, but just let me explain my view on the bosses. Please, I'm begging you. Firstly, I don't dislike all the bosses. There are some that I actually really, really like. And I would say are ranked decently high on my, boss tier list. Gehrman is a fantastic final boss. I love that boss. Really, really good boss. Now, fuck the Moon Presence. That boss is fucking horrible. Father Gascoigne, also a very good boss. I enjoyed the fight a lot, and I think he's a really good first boss, even though technically the Cleric Beast is kind of the first boss. He's one of the first bosses. It's same fucking thing. Really good boss. I really, really like that. Lorgarius, also another solid boss. I really liked him. He was fun. Now, there might be a pattern that you're picking up with these bosses. None of them are the beasts. I mean, Gascoigne kind of is, but that's besides the damn point. My point is that I don't really find many of the beast bosses very amazing. Now, don't get me wrong, they look really cool, and they fit fucking perfectly into Bloodborne, but man, I just have no fond memories of fighting these bosses. And actually, a matter of fact, I don't have like any memories of these bosses at all. They just weren't very interesting for me. Again, they looked really interesting, but the actual boss fights were nothing spectacular for me. Like, none of them. The only beast boss that I actually like is in the DLC. And I promise, I really did try and enjoy all these bosses in the game because so many people had said how much they liked them. But I just couldn't see the appeal. But hey, again, that's just my stupid opinions. I know many people love the bosses, and I think that's fucking awesome. I love to hear that. But that is the main reason that Bloodborne is ranked lower for me. The bosses are probably the biggest part for me when it comes to Souls games, and I just feel like there are other Souls games that have a stronger base game boss roster. However, there is one aspect of Bloodborne that it has over all the games easily, except for Elden Ring, but let's just forget Elden Ring for like a minute or two, alright? Let's just fucking forget about it first. The DLC. This was the fucking GOAT of DLCs for me ever since I played it. This DLC was fucking phenomenal. Only Miyazaki could outdo this DLC. And he did, but that's besides the point. Again, we are forgetting Elden Ring right now. Let's not fucking talk about the Shadow of the Erdtree right now. There's nothing bad I can say about this DLC. It's fucking perfection. And yes, as you might have guessed, I do think Shadow of the Erdtree is a better DLC, but only by a small margin. It took a lot of thought to really decide on which DLC I thought was better. I do think Shadow of the Erdtree beats it out, but that does not at all take away from the fact that this DLC is fucking peak. It has the boss with my favorite OST ever, Ludwig, fucking legendary. It's such a good OST, man. It's so fucking good. And my second favorite boss of all time, Lady Maria. Holy shit. Just 3 phases, 1 health bar of just absolute fucking cinema. Just such an amazing boss. It also has one of the hardest, if not the hardest for some boss in the Souls games, the Orphan of Kos. Genuinely such a stacked DLC. Words cannot explain how amazing this DLC is. And if you haven't played the DLC, but you've played the base game Bloodborne, then I implore you to play the damn DLC, because that shit's going to change you. Hell, I even played it on New Game Plus on accident, and still had an amazing time, even with the 40% increase to boss's health. Seriously, not a single bad thing I can say about it. Wait a minute, what is that? Alright, so there's like one little thing I don't like about this DLC. It's Lawrence. Do I need to say any more? Fighting this fuck-ass boss, who, by the way, has the most fucking health in the game. In New Game Plus. So 40% more health than he already fucking had, was horrible. I would rather throw my testicles into a tub of hot tar while being violently smashed in the fucking skull with rakes than ever fight this boss ever again. Fuck you, Lawrence. I fucking hate you. Alrighty. One more aspect I want to touch on before wrapping up this video. It's the neglect. This shit is honestly sad. I pray every day that in the next Sony Direct, we're going to get something for Bloodborne. A remaster or a PC port. Literally fucking something, anything. And it hurts every time we get nothing. But deep down, I know that we're never going to get anything new for Bloodborne. And it just makes it hurt even more. It really feels like Sony just doesn't think it's going to do well or something. And maybe there is a specific reason why they don't want to. But I just don't see why they wouldn't do something like this. I don't see a world where a Bloodborne remaster doesn't sell like a fucking billion copies, dude. This shit would be insane. It's whatever, I guess. Instead, we'll just keep getting the Last of Us remastered, remake, reimagined, enhanced, upscaled, crafted for next-gen consoles PC port for the 32nd time. And that's just the life we have to live. God forbid we get to live in a good fucking timeline where we can get a Bloodborne remaster or a PC port. But no, we get stuck in this fuck-ass shit. Horrible fortune. Luckily, there is the Bloodborne PS4 emulator that is being worked on, and I'm pretty sure it's basically fully playable. So there's always that, which is fantastic here. It'll give a lot more people the chance to play the game, which is good because more people need to play this game right now.
On March 22nd, 2019, FromSoft's hit game Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice would release. I would not play the game until last year, 2024. When I was going through and playing all the Soulsborne games, and let me fucking tell ya, this shit was peak. Sekiro is a fantastic game, and I think most people can agree with that. However, once I finished the game and finished 100%ing it, a thought still lingered in my head. This game really isn't talked about a lot. This honestly might just be me here, but I don't see a lot of talk about Sekiro. To be honest, mostly it's about Bloodborne or Elden Ring, maybe Dark Souls 1 or one of the Dark Souls games, but not a lot with Sekiro. When it is brought up, it's basically always praised, which it deserves. And it's not like a lot of people don't know about the game. I mean, hell, it fucking won Game of the Year, and it's sold over 10 million copies. And I feel like it's, for the most part, ranked pretty high on most people's Soulsborne rankings, including myself. And yet, I just don't see a lot of people talking about it and praising it. And I suppose an argument could be made that it's been multiple years, so of course it wouldn't be talked about as much, but fuck, I see plenty of stuff about the Dark Souls games and Bloodborne and obviously Elden Ring. And fucking Dark Souls 1 has been out since fucking 2011, and I see plenty about that fucking game. But never much about Sekiro. And it's always kind of perplexed me on why this was happening. Now, before I get into much more of the video, I do want to preface that this is simply what I have seen, and maybe I'm just crazy, and plenty of people see all kinds of stuff about Sekiro. I don't know, man. Let's get back to the video. Now, besides talking about the little amount of Sekiro content I see, I do also just want to give my thoughts on the game. And simply put, it's peak. Fucking awesome. I don't think I've ever stated where I've ranked any of the Souls games when I've made a video on them, but I'm just going to come out and do it for Sekiro. It's my second favorite game out of all of them. And, you know, I'll let you try and figure out where the other ones are ranked. It has so little flaws about it, and it hands down, without a shadow of a doubt, has the best combat out of any of the games. It does a great job at making the boss fights feel really like an actual duel. Unlike the other games where you can kind of be a little slower with the bosses, sit back, kind of draw the bosses' certain attacks out, wait for them to make the move first. But in Sekiro, you have to keep the pressure on the bosses so you can fill the fucking posture bar, and I love that. It makes every fight feel so much more intense. You have to keep the pressure on them. You have to keep attacking. Which was also helped with the fantastic sounds that were always made when you were fighting with your swords and shit. It was awesome. Again, just peak combat. Amazing. I have yet to find a parry system that I really enjoy more than Sekiro's. And I think that a part of it is because of how fast it is. I really like how fast the game is. You have to be ready for everything, ready to parry it every second, or jump over an enemy, or perform a Mariki counter. You have to be ready for everything, all the time, and it's awesome, and I fucking love it. I really don't have, honestly, a single negative thing to say about the combat. And in my opinion, FromSoft has yet to make a combat system as fun as Sekiro's, and I do really hope they return to that type of combat someday. But until then, I'll just have to wait in sorrow until they finally do it. Now I want to talk about probably my second favorite part of Sekiro, the bosses. Sekiro probably has my second or third favorite boss lineup of the games. I'd have to honestly look back at the other ones to determine where its actual place is at. Hell, it might even be first, but I don't think it is. But god damn it, it's so good. there are very few fights in the game that I would say are honestly really bad. They're mostly really solid. It also has my favorite, welcome to the game boss, the intro boss, whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't know. That's what I've always called him. And now, I do want to get this right here. I'm not talking about the first time you fight Genichiro at the very beginning of the game, or Gyobu. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the second time you fight Genichiro. I guess technically he isn't the intro boss or anything. To me, he is the real welcome to the game boss. Because to me, he's the first boss that really makes you play Sekiro like Sekiro. Gyobu isn't a very fast boss. You can kind of just go and grapple him, hit him, parry the few attacks that he does every now and then. But Genichiro really makes you analyze and learn the boss. You have to learn the parry timings. You have to learn when you can attack. All that shit. Because if you don't, you're never going to get past him. It really makes you play like Sekiro and not like the other games. In my opinion, it's the boss that gets you out of the Dark Souls mindset of trying to dodge the enemy and gets you into the Sekiro mindset of fucking parry that motherfucker to death. And for me, Genichiro was the boss where it clicked for me. After hours of fighting that motherfucker, the combat just finally clicked with me. I understood it. And I will touch on that later, but I still have more I want to say about the bosses. This game has my second favorite boss ever, and my favorite final boss ever. And, in my opinion, is what every final boss should strive to be. Ishin the Sword Saint. This boss is so fucking cool. He literally fights you with everything that you have seen in the game. Everything. You have to be ready to parry normal sword attacks, halberd attacks, perform Mariki counters, dodge the gun he has, deflect the lightning. It takes all of the knowledge you've built up from playing the game and puts it into one boss, and it is fucking peak. It has got to be probably as close to perfect of a boss as you can get. And I remember finally beating that boss. It was late at night, and it was either day 2 or 3 of me fighting him. I had put so many hours into fighting Ishin. And I remember when I finally beat him, I just sat my controller down, put my hands on my head, just fucking breathe a huge sigh of relief. I could fucking feel my heart pumping so goddamn fucking fast, and I was like slightly shaking. I was in it. I was fucking in the groove with that in that final attempt. But to be honest, part of me wanted to just do it again because it was just so much fun. I had so much fun with the fight. However, if you remember, I did say that most of the bosses are good. There is one I want to talk about that I really hate, and I feel that it makes no sense to have it in Sekiro. Blazing Bull. This stupid fucking dumbass piece of shit fuck ass boss is so fucking shit. I hate this boss. The entire time up to that point, the game is teaching you that you need to deflect. You can't just dodge this shit. And then for some reason they decide, what if we put a boss where you had to dodge it and not parry it? After teaching the player to literally parry the entire game. Fucking wow, Marvin. You're a genius. I sure do love fucking over the player. This boss just feels so out of place. It sucks, and I hate it. But, to be honest, I think it's really the only boss in Sekiro that I strongly hate. I do suppose that I don't like the folding screen monkeys, but that boss is kind of just tedious, if anything, not really annoyingly stupid or hard. And now, remember how I said I would get back to the part about the game clicking? Well, it's this part now. I think that the main reason people stay away from Sekiro, including myself, was that we heard it was really fucking hard. Like the hardest of the series. And I was put off by that and the fact that it was parry focused. I just thought it would be way too hard to actually enjoy. I was wrong. I remember my friend playing the game first and saying how good it was. That didn't convince me enough to get the game, and obviously I got to Genichiro and struggled. The game was hard, like definitely the hardest game I had played, but then it clicked. And all of a sudden, the game wasn't that hard. It was hard, don't get me wrong, but not as hard as people have made it out to be. Now, of course, difficulty is subjective, and there is no one single hardest Soulsborne game. I actually have a whole video about that. Please don't watch it. It sucks. But I feel that Sekiro as a whole isn't incredibly difficult. I feel that it's just as difficult as any of the other ones. But it's its learning curve that's very difficult. And that's mostly because it's completely different from the rest of the Soulsborne games. Which is why I think a lot of people find the game so hard, because the learning curve of the game is very difficult. But please do not let that deter you from playing this game, because Sekiro is a fantastic game, and I will always recommend it to everyone. I really do think you should check out Sekiro. It's a fantastic time, and it's absolutely well worth your money. It also was my favorite 100% experience. It was honestly pretty fun, and that's saying something, because 100%ing Souls games is the same, if not worse, than fucking cock and ball torture. That shit sucks. So to say the 100% process was actually fun, I think says quite a lot about the game. Now, once again, maybe it's just me who doesn't see a lot of Sekiro content. Maybe the game is talked about plenty, but from what I've seen, I just feel like the game isn't talked about enough. The game is peak. It really is, and I wish it was talked about so much more. And if you haven't played it, then I implore you to get the game. And if you don't want to pay the $60 for it, then just wait for a sale and buy it immediately. I promise you won't regret it. Elden Ring is a game that most people have heard of and many have played. It's a game that many rank as one of, if not the best, of the series. I am one of those people. And it's a game that many say is one of, if not the best game they've ever played. I am also one of those people. Elden Ring is also the last Soulsborne game that I have yet to talk about. Elden Ring was technically the first Souls game that I ever played. But I wouldn't really say it was the game that got me into playing the Souls games. I've always put that as Dark Souls 1. Because to be completely honest with you, I didn't really like Elden Ring the first time I played it. Because to be honest, I sucked at the game. I thought it was too hard. Yeah, I was kind of a fucking bitch back then. I was horrible at video games. But after playing the other Souls games, I did eventually come back to Elden Ring and played the fuck out of it. I threw like 100 hours into that save, and all 100 hours of it were glorious. And after playing all the other games, I can really tell that Elden Ring is the accumulation of the past 13 years of work that FromSoft put in with their other Souls games. But when I started thinking about what exactly I wanted to talk about in the video, I came to a realization. What exactly do I love about Elden Ring? What makes me place it above all the other games? Why do I love Elden Ring? Honestly, I don't know. I really can't quite put my finger on what exactly it is that makes me rank this game as high as I do. But I do have some ideas that I would like to talk about and discuss in this video. In my opinion, Elden Ring is the most neutral out of all the games. Let me just break it down for you here, exactly what I mean by that. Elden Ring doesn't have my favorite boss lineup out of the games. I don't know if I would say any of the bosses, or even in my top 10, maybe a few. I'd have to think about it. It doesn't have my favorite weapons out of the games. It doesn't have my favorite combat. There are other Souls games that do all that better, in my opinion. However, Elden Ring does all of them really good. Not great, Not the best, but really good. It has some really cool weapons and builds you can create in the game. It has some pretty solid bosses. It's just that the highs of the bosses are not as high as other Souls games, but the lows definitely are not as low as other Souls games. The combat is fun. It's not slow and kind of clunky like Dark Souls 1 or 2, but it's not as fast as a game like Sekiro, but still a good, fast game that allows the combat to be very enjoyable. And I think it did what Sekiro did, but on a larger scale. I believe I said this in the Sekiro video, but Sekiro is a very consistently good game. It's just very solid throughout the entire game. And so is Elden Ring, except it's much larger, but it's still consistently, in my opinion, very good. There are definitely a few areas that aren't very great, and I do look back on with a negative view, but they are simply just nowhere near as bad as the shitty places in other games. So I would say that's one of the reasons that I think Elden Ring appeals to me so much. It's just solid throughout everything. Every single part of the way through the entirety of the game, I can just enjoy myself and not be fucking annoyed and hate the game. Which honestly is something that a very few of the games can say, I would think. Most of the games, I feel like there are at least a decent portion of it where it's just really annoying or boring or something, but Elden Ring, I don't really ever feel that way with it. I would say in most of the games, the consistency of bosses or areas in general is just much weaker compared to Elden Ring. While some games like DS3 might have bosses that I like more and I think are better than basically every Elden Ring boss, the consistency of the bosses I just don't think is as good as Elden Ring's. But speaking of the areas, I think the big reason, and probably one of the main reasons that I do love Elden Ring as much as I do, is because of its world. I'm a fucking sucker for an awesome open world map. When done correctly, you would think with such a large map that Elden Ring has, there would be a lot of nothingness, but you'd be completely wrong. This world is full of stuff to do. It feels real. It feels alive. Something that, in my opinion, many open worlds fail at, but not Elden Ring. For me, it really is like if Red Dead 2 and the Souls games combined. It has the depth and the beauty and perfection of exploration of Red Dead 2's map combined with all the Soulsborne aspects. I honestly couldn't ask for anything better. That's just fucking the perfect game for me. That shit's awesome. Elden Ring fucking nailed exploration. They did it basically as perfect as you can. You could just start riding off in a random direction, see something, go to it, fight a boss or start a side mission, then see something else. Go to that, along the way, see something else, go check that out. Oh shit, it's a cave. Go down, explore the cave, end up fighting a boss and gain a sick ass charm. Leave the cave, walk through a forest, and end up riding straight into a dragon fight. It's just a bunch of shit, and yet it just feels so real. None of it feels forced. It just feels like just a regular, just solid experience of exploring the map. And again, like I said, very few games have been able to do that for me. My gold standard of video game maps has always been Red Dead 2. That shit had me captivated for hundreds of hours. But no world had ever been able to reach that same level of exploration that Red Dead 2's maps could provide me. Until Elden Ring. And to be honest, I really can't choose which world I like more. Because in my opinion, they're both perfect. And after a 100+ hour playthrough, I thought I had done most things. But when I did another playthrough to get ready for the DLC, I found out just how much stuff I missed. There was more. So much more to see. It was seriously fucking amazing. Now, speaking of the DLC, I feel like I got into these games at just the right time because basically as soon as I finished my playthrough for Elden Ring, my, I guess technically second playthrough, I was already going to get ready to do another playthrough so that I could be ready for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. And let me just say something right now. Shadow of the Erdtree is the best DLC the FromSoft has ever created. And don't get me wrong, I love the old Hunters. It's a great DLC. I love all the DLCs, really, from FromSoft. But Shadow of the Erdtree was fucking peak. However, it was also a pretty controversial DLC because of its difficulty, which I just want to say was a load of fucking hogwash. I don't think the DLC should have ever taken its difficulty down. Like, the games are literally about persevering even through the hardest challenges. And yet everyone was complaining on it was being hard. Yeah, no shit. That's kind of what they fucking do. Now, I will say this. There were some bosses with visual clutter that didn't need to be fixed because good fucking luck being able to actually see what the boss was doing. I'm talking about you, Promise Consort Radon. You piece of shit. But, besides that, I believe the difficulty should have never changed. But, that's all been said and done for a while now, and there's no changing that. But, back to the actual DLC. This motherfucker Miyazaki cooked up another absolutely fucking stunning world with even more to explore. And yeah, the size of Limgrave, my ass. This map was huge. And the bosses? Oh my great googly goosh gosh goodness, this shit was fucking awesome. The DLC bosses are some of my favorite of the entire game. R'hllana might be like my second favorite Elden Ring boss. Bale absolutely being my favorite Elden Ring boss. And my favorite dragon fight. Sorry, my dear, I love you, but come on, man. Bale is fucking peak. And now that I think about it, I would say my top 3 Elden Ring bosses are all DLC bosses. Midra number 3, R'hllana number 2, and Bale number 1. Now, just a little side tangent here. Before I go back talking about the DLC, I honestly added this little part after writing the entire script, but I kind of wanted to add this part in because I wanted to talk about it. It honestly has nothing to do with the DLC, but I do have something that's probably very controversial. A very controversial opinion, I would say. I don't think I've ever heard anyone else say this. About an Elden Ring boss. I don't like Malekith. Or I guess I should be more specific, I don't like Beast Clergyman. Now before you fucking fillet me alive or anything, just let me explain myself, please. I think he's a very cool fight. He looks very cool. But when I was doing my level 1 run, I realized how shit this boss was. I never realized it before because I could get through the boss pretty quick when you're super strong. You really get to see everything, all the moves. And I realized how ass this fight is. His hitbox is one of the worst fucking things I've ever seen in my entire goddamn life. I'd be standing in this guy's ass, do a charge attack with my spiky balls, and still somehow missed as I watched it go through his fucking leg. And this was like a regular occurrence. This would happen probably at least once or twice, if not more, every single run. And then, when he decided to do the fucking move where he shoots the rocks up in the air, while they're falling down, and you can't really see them because of all the fucking rocks in your face, he would still do moves. Mostly the one where he throws rocks at you, when you can't see the rocks, because the rocks are coming down in front of you. So you just have to fucking know. You just have to sense it. Just somehow sense it that he's gonna fucking throw the rocks. Because you can't fucking see it. And then, with the same fucking move, with the rocks shooting up, sometimes there would clearly be no fucking rocks on the ground. And yet for some goddamn reason, the rocks would still shoot out and fucking hit me. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people really like Malekith. But I just can never see him the same after that. Still a very cool looking boss. But personally for me, from an actual design standpoint, there's just too much annoying shit about him for me to actually like the boss. And maybe he just scarred me, and that's why I can never look at him the same, but I just wanted to get that off my chest. I just wanted to talk about that, since I feel like it's kind of a controversial thing. I don't know, I've never heard anyone else say it. But, I think there's enough about that. I'm going to get back to actually talking about the DLC. Another part of the DLC that I really liked was, honestly, just the build-up to it coming out. I remember being in some fuck-ass business class watching the first ever trailer for Shadow of the Erdtree, and I remember all the speculation that me and all my friends had of what exactly was going to happen in the DLC. And I remember the day of, before it actually dropped, we all got like a fuck ton of energy drinks and were prepared to just play all night long. It was honestly just really fun time. I remember that day very well. It was just a really fun time being super excited for something to come out. Honestly, I don't know if I had ever been that excited for something to come out. I was really fucking hyped, and it was really fun just watching it, getting it downloaded and being ready to play it. It was really awesome. And though it was just a little part, it did really add to making that summer even more enjoyable. And while I don't necessarily say Elden Ring is the game that got me into Souls games, like I said, it'll always be DS1 in my opinion. It was the game that got me to truly enjoy these games in a sense. I do wonder if I would have ever decided to ever play DS1 if I never played Elden Ring. Because while I didn't enjoy my first playthrough of Elden Ring, a part of me wanted to play DS1 simply because I had played Elden Ring like a year or year and a half before that. Would I have literally ever played these games if it wasn't at least for that first playthrough of Elden Ring? Because I probably honestly would have never fucking known about these games if it wasn't for Elden Ring. But I don't really know. I like to think I still would have played the games, but honestly, I'll never know. So I could tell you exactly what I love about every other Souls game. What really stands out to me in every single one of those games that makes me rank them where I do. But why I have Elden Ring as my number 1 and my number 2 game ever is a bit more of a tricky question for me to answer. I know I listed off a bunch of shit in the video, but even still, I'm still not exactly sure what it is that makes me love the game so much. I honestly just do. I just love Elden Ring. And I do think that's all I have to talk about in this one. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video and all the other Souls reviews. So I guess I'll see you guys in the next video whenever that'll be. See you later.